Hello, this is Carol Tudor. I'm back online, and tonight's subject is anxiety and depression caused by hormone imbalance. And I hope that I'm going to see some names here. I hope that this is, I put it on public. You should be seeing it. So I'm playing around with this right now. Oh, good. Oh, Brother Williams. Well, look at that. Look at that. Hey, and now I just can't see myself. Oh, there I am. Okay. Oh, I see what I did. I switched there we go. Last time as my phone updated, it changed settings. And so I had so many people that were trying to get me, and I was talking to myself. And so good, there's Sue. Hi, Sue. I'm continuing because we're having so much problems in America with anxiety and depression and suicides, which is so sad. And I am continuing my teaching about anxiety and depression. Now I'm dealing individually with separate problems. I will not be able to dive as deep as some of you want me to do this tonight, but I am going to do several things. I'm going to sort of walk through my outline and give you ideas of what it could be. I'm hoping some of you will call and make me appointments. The average phone call that I have is from 1 to 2 hours, and I charge up $50 an hour. I actually don't charge. I take love offerings, but so many people wonder, is it going to be expensive? During the COVID, the Zoom calls to doctors were 125 or 30 minutes. And so I am my nursing of 52 years. And then I wanted to tell you, I spent 5 years working with a holistic doctor, natural DO, that taught me hormone balancing. And he helps so many infertile couples be able to have children. So I know I really had like a extra education in that. Didn't get that much in med school at all. So tonight's subject is going to be about hormone balance in both men and women. I will not be able to dive deep. I will be able to give you some tips that you can decide whether you want to go get tested. You can decide what kind of test you want. And I will tell you this, there's a lot of hormone imbalance, and there's a cause from it. Now let me have a prayer, and then I'm going to get started, and I've got my outline here. And I want to give you a couple tips about what I'm going to do with my website and how you can work with me. I'm getting really excited. I can't believe the Lord's doing this. I've got an awesome website. You can go to it. I'll let you know what it is. It's tudorwithcarol.com, God's Way to Ultimate Health. But there's nothing on it yet. But that's the title and the picture. And I want you to go to it later and tell me if you like it. And I have a webmaster who is setting it up. So, and I'll give you some more information on that. Let me pray. Father, I pray, Lord, you give us wisdom, guide my thoughts. And Lord, I got an awful lot to say in about 50 minutes. I pray you'd lead and guide me, help me to be focused. Father, I want to glorify you, and I'm in this medical missionaries business just to help my sisters and brothers in Christ. And I ask, Lord, now that you bless this video in Jesus' name, amen. So number one, there are the causes of all of this hormone imbalancing. And by the way, I believe in hormone supplementation for people in their 60s, 70s, and all the way up. Now, it has to be done a certain way and a certain amount. But I'm on natural hormones. My husband is on some. I'd like him to be on more. I just can't get the prescription for it. But I'm working at that. There are some natural things you can do. So first, the causes of the hormone imbalance is the chemicals around us, like endocrine disruptors. Your system, all of the hormones work together. Now I want to explain this. The endocrine system is a system of glands, and they include the adrenals, the hypothalamus, the ovaries, the pancreas, which people don't realize. Insulin is a hormone. The pituitary, which is up here in the brain, right there. The thyroid, the testes in the male, the thyroid, and the parathyroids. So these glands all work together like dominoes. And you know when you play dominoes, or you sit dominoes up, or you sit some Legos up, and you just flick one of them and they all go bum, 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 bum. Well, that's what happens to our hormone system, and these are some of the causes. I'm not going to go into all the causes, but I've taught on these. What's going to happen is my website, all my videos are going to get moved to my website, and they'll be titled, and they'll be filed, and you'll be able to go to them and get the subject and look it up. Endocrine disruptors is one of them, and I've talked about getting rid of some of the chemicals. For example, go to clear and free clothes detergent and things like that. So I'm not going to go into each one, but I want you to know what they are. So there's endocrine disruptors, which are chemicals, GMOs, high sugar diet, food sprayed with pesticides, cleaning supplies, beauty and hair supplies, drugs. And by the way, when you take any drug, OTC, hi Dawn, I got to say hi to people. And there's, hey, Andrea Bird and David. And so when you take any drug, let's take Tylenol and Motrin, the two most common over-the-counter drugs. They are made in a heavy metal base. That heavy metal base, your body cannot get rid of. And so what it does is it goes to the liver and it goes to the kidneys and it just stays there. It's toxic. Every drug has a side effect. And of course, most drugs are not made from something. That's why, I am on one, but I'm not into taking a lot of drugs. And so those heavy metal bases, which come from vaccinations, like my husband got in the Air Force, I had to have TB tests as a nurse. We all are exposed. I'm not trying to act like I'm not. All of us have things in us that suppress and even actually can cause cysts and damage the glands, the endocrine glands. You say, well, what do the endocrine glands have to do with my menopause or my hormones or my sex life? Well, they all work together. And they're also, I have to put the 5 invaders in there because I just recently learned that mold and exposure to mold causes endometriosis. Now we know that the conventional medical world, deals with endometriosis, any female problems, by giving a birth control pill, a birth control patch, surgery. They don't know the root cause. So there's many things that contribute to the hormone imbalance. And so the first thing to know is just assume, and especially if you can't lose weight, if you're tired, if you're fatigued, if you have depression, and again, I'm not talking about grief. If you've lost somebody, it's normal to grieve. I want you to grieve. We need to lean into our grief and get off our phones and get off our stuff and go cry and talk to the Lord and walk in nature and go work through it. But I'm talking about uncharacteristic depression and especially anxiety I remember when I'm 72 now. I can't believe it. I just feel like I'm about 35 or 40, but until I look in the mirror. And so I can't believe I'm 72, but in my 40s, I lost my mom and my dad 5 weeks apart, and I was 39 years old. And I began having this, I would keep thinking the same things over and over and over. It was like a rerun, like I had a record in my brain that would not stop. Well, that was a symptom of menopause. My doctor told me, you took all the stress of taking care of your parents out on your female system. And so he then put me on some natural things which were life-changing. And I've stayed on them since that was 40. I'm 72. And so there are now, years ago, Mrs. Trieber, I have a quote here from her because she's the one who got me into doing this. Years ago, you couldn't get anything over OTC. You couldn't go on Amazon. There was no Amazon. You couldn't get over-the-counter progesterone. You had to go to a doctor, and they want to give you synthetics. You don't want birth control pills. You don't want testosterone. That's a chemical. And some men and women both need testosterone. So there's all these reasons to have imbalances, and you may have more than one. I was a big dairy eater, and dairy has all of the dairy, unless it's now raw and organic. Most of your dairy has a lot of chemicals in it. A lot of my meats. Well, at age 45, I stopped doing most of that, and that helped me. But all those chemicals and hormones that were in our dairy products, cheese, ice cream, meat, those caused an imbalance. We don't need cow's milk, and babies need mother's milk. We don't need formula. So all the things that we've done to our bodies, and by the way, some things were done to me that I can't change. I can't change. My mom didn't give me mother's milk, she wasn't able to breastfeed me. Hurt me a lot. By 7, I had my tonsils out, and I'm sure I was already becoming lactose intolerant. And so, and I won't even go into all the condition of our food because that's another video. So I'm watching because I want to, I don't want to go too long. So there's a lot of causes, okay? And definitely you got to clean up the diet. You folks who've been watching me for the last 4 years, you know the first thing I'm going to say, your food is your medicine. So you got to clean it up. You got to get to a lot of vegetables, grass-fed meat or hormone-free meat. I was in Walmart today getting all the I found hormone and antibiotic-free bison, ground bison. If you ever want to eat a great burger, get some ground bison because it's really good. And we have bison farms in our area. But anyway, so I try to do 100% organic? No, I don't have it out here, but I do as much as I can, and then I do wash my vegetables. So I'm not going to go into each cause, but I want you to be aware, sit down, ask the Lord for wisdom, pray, say, Lord, show me some things in my body that I could change. So secondly, we have a condition called estrogen dominance in our world, including men. I remember when, young men started, a lot of our young men are effeminate looking. Because if they're eating the standard American diet, there's a lot of estrogen and female hormones in all the diet. I remember Dr. Cal said to me one time, he said the boys were laying down on the basketball, when they lost a game, they were laying down on the basketball floor crying like a little girl. And he really did think, and that was 30 years ago, that boys were having too many hormones in the food, which is making them like more, having those types of behaviors, not masculine. And of course, we know our world wants to blend the sexes and doesn't want us to have a man and a woman. And so estrogen dominance is caused by all these hormones that were put in our meat, our milk, our cheese, the glyphosate and the Roundup, which are pesticides. They are chemicals which encourage wrong estrogen. It's called xenoestrogen. Birth control pills are part of the problem, big time, and patches and shots. And those cause a real high amount of estrogen, and that's why we have so many miscarriages. Because when your estrogen goes high, you don't have enough progesterone to come up because they ebb and flow. What would be really good for anybody here who is menopausal or going through menopause or teenager, we need to teach people about your hormone system. You need to know what it does. I taught this at college, and I'm amazed at how many of us women didn't know what the cycle does, when you ovulate, what's going on. And by the way, at menopause, normal menopause, your ovaries start to shrink, and I've seen very many women go into depression. I've seen women have a hysterectomy and go into depression because they didn't give them hormones. And you don't want synthetic hormones, which are the only kind conventional doctors give. In fact, they don't give anything else. And they will give them too when you're finally desperate enough and you beg them. So the xenoestrogen dominance, you can look it up, and I'll try to put a couple things on my page this week to follow up what I'm going to do. So that causes a lack of progesterone. A lack of progesterone causes libido problems, depression, suicide thoughts, weight gain, anxiety. I think I said libido. Definitely, it can cause miscarriages, and also difficulty, like a premature births and things like that. Because when a woman becomes pregnant, the placenta should start kicking in and producing progesterone. But if she's estrogen dominant, and by the way, big arms, that's one of the symptoms. Why isn't every woman have huge arms? There's so many symptoms that go with this. And by the way, estrogen dominance also involves your thyroid. So and there again, I can't dive deep enough to explain it all to you. But I've got a book in the progress, and I've got my website in the progress. And then I will be able to make one video about each subject. Just to say this, our body is fearfully and wonderfully made. In Psalm 1, I think it's 1, I can't remember right now, but anyway, he says we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and we have we have like a symphony going on with all these hormones, and everything goes off at the right time. And so in a woman who's still cycling, the progesterone and the estrogen ebb and flow. And by the way, there's 3 or 4 kinds of estrogen. There's estradiol, estrogen. There's FSH. There's TSH. Those are all to do with the cycle. And we women, you know, I know men always tease us, and you know, and everybody laughs about women and their hormones. But look what we do. We are co-creators with God. We bring a child into this world. And my husband often goes, if I had to have a baby, Carol, forget it. I would, men couldn't do it. That's why women, that's one reason why we have so much to take care of, because we start cycling at age 11, 12, 13. So our body, we have to slow down, and we have to take care of ourselves, because we've got a body that's more fragile. We're not less important than a man, but our body is more fragile. We're co-creators with God. We bring people into this world. Your body is the first home of a child. And of course, we have so many years where we didn't teach people about food. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have good things about nutrition. And of course, our government has really destroyed our food. Our food is in bad condition, processed foods. And so estrogen dominance, I want you to look it up if you think you are. And some of the symptoms are severe PMS, too many cycles, a long cycle, infertility, PCOS, insomnia, anxiety, depression, are just a few. Obesity, bad libido, hot flashes. There's a lot there, and it can start in the teenage years. Endometriosis is definitely a problem of it's actually caused by an infection. It's caused by an invader between fungus and mold. And a lot of people have mold in their houses and don't know it. It's in between the walls, and some people can be exposed, and when they're exposed, that's how it affects certain women. So that now, here's a way you can get tested if you want to get tested. There are some companies out there in these wellness clinics that will draw your labs. Those are okay. They're not as accurate as a saliva test. There are hormone saliva tests that you can get online, and they tell you how to do it at home, and you send it in, and then you get the test back. Now, I've had people do that. They do a saliva test, and then they make an appointment with me, and I read the test. And so that's probably one of the best ways. But then also you've got the biomeridian scans. This is a parentheses. I went and had a treatment today on a frequency bed. And I know some of you won't understand this, but you realize your phone, everything works on frequencies. Just like when God, he spoke the world into existence. So frequencies, there's power. Words are eternal. There's power, frequencies. For example, the Bible says, the leaf of the field shall be to you as medicine. Well, how can that be? Well, essential oils have frequencies in them. They're powerful. If you don't believe it, get around somebody and have them teach you, and you'd be shocked what they do. I have 2 oils I rub on my neck for neck pain. Very powerful. And I also use lavender for calming, because I get too excited. You know, I've always been, I remember when I had Mrs. Evans, and some of you will laugh at this. Hi, Stephanie. And Mrs. Evans says, Carol, you talk fast, you walk fast, you eat fast. Slow down. You're faster than everybody else in the whole world. And I didn't have ADD. I've always been fast. And then when I got in nursing, you know, you don't want a nurse where you put on the call bell and you say, can please bring me a pain shot? And it takes 2 hours. You know, I was hustling down that hallway taking care of patients. Well, now I've got too much speed on me from Lyme disease. It's like sped up my brain. So I'm always taking something natural to slow me down, which there's a serenity oil, there's lavender oil. There are many things that work. And so there's a solution for all of these issues. Now, why so much hormone imbalance? Severe nutrition deficiency because of our food. Chemicals abound. I mean, unbelievable. And these chemicals have these endocrine disruptors. And not only do they disrupt your ovaries, they can disrupt your pituitary. Many, many, many people have not been able to conceive, and that makes me so happy. So sad, that women who can't have children, and it's all based on a hormone system that is out of whack. And it can start when you're a teenager. It can start when you're at any age. Having been in this profession a half a century, I know dozens of women that have not been able to conceive. And to me, that's one of the saddest things that I wish I could help. And the Dr. Streeter that I worked for, he was really good he knew how to balance out progesterone, estrogen, estradiol, thyroid, and thyroid's crucial. The thyroid is a very big component of fertility. And there's actually some people are too fertile. Like I have a missionary friend, she has 9 kids, and she goes, Mrs. Tudor, I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Well, the thyroid can cause infertility and too fertile because of certain chemical conditions in the body. So I want you to know there's ways to test. You can get a saliva test. You can get labs. There's a company that some people have found success with called BioT. I've had mixed reviews. Some people get help. Some people do not get help. For those of you that know Loretta Walker, Loretta and her husband go all the way back up to Indiana because they've gotten very good help from Dr. Dennis Streeter. Dennis and Julie Streeter, I believe, are still in the business. However, I've sent other people. They got no help. Example, I went and got a testosterone pellet before I knew I had parasites in Lyme. It did nothing for me. It was $300. Did nothing. And so there are people, so you've got to find out what the root problems are. Okay, that's very important. You got to find out, are you using shampoos with parabens? Parabens causes endocrine disruption. Are you using Tide? Are you using, I don't use any, I take that back. I do have a couple Clorox wipes in my house, but pretty much I clean with On Guard, I clean with Thieves, I clean with vinegar, lemon. You've got to figure out what is contributing to your hormone imbalance and eliminate it. And it's not that expensive. You can do it. There's all kinds of ways, and I've made videos about that. So you're able to, this is a fixable problem. And you know what? When you have your hormones fixed, you can feel so good about life. So utterly good. Mrs. Trieber, I texted her today because we've been friends 50 years, and she was on the hormone trail way back, and really started learning. And we were talking about, 30, 40 years ago, you could not get anything. Hi, Melissa Drinkwater. Atina, the cook of all cooks. And Becky Lastmaster, oh my goodness, this is like an old reunion. And so the Mrs. Trieber did the research and found the creams. There were creams, and back 30, 40 years ago, like I said, you could ever get anything over the counter for hormone imbalance. My Aunt Donnie, who I loved and adored, was a great personality. When I was in med school, they gave her a hysterectomy with no hormones. And she landed in a mental institution, sanitarium, for several months. And I guarantee you she was not nuts. She was a saved lady, and she's gone to heaven. Nobody will be watching this that'll know her. But I was all based on hormones. I cannot tell you how many people I meet, how many women I meet who've had hysterectomies before they should have with no hormones. Most of them have had years of hormone imbalance, depression, mental breakdowns. I mean, God made us with hormones. We need them, and we need them to be right. We don't need too much of one thing. And so, and by the way, if you're weight loss resistant, you're not going to lose weight unless your hormones get balanced. So here's what she says. When a woman doesn't feel right, she feels strange or weird. And by the way, menopause, you can start perimenopause at 38. And if you have other health conditions, it can come early, it can come later. Sometimes getting the tubes tied will put you into an early menopause. So when a woman this is Mrs. Trieber, when a woman doesn't feel right or weird, moody, depression, something's off. I don't feel right. The first thing to do is check your hormones. So many women go to doctors and they will put you on an antidepressant, which ultimately makes things more out of whack. It's a vicious cycle and makes life miserable for our husband, our children, and our friends. She said, a great preacher said once, you can pray all you want, but if there's something physiologically wrong, you need to address it. She says, I would always recommend a natural alternative source before a conventional medical route. Now, she recommends somebody named plattwellness.com. I will put it on the, after this is over, I will go down tonight and put all these things. Plattwellness.com. I'm used to Dr. John Lee. But both are good, but plattwellness.com, she said I would love the doctor. He's got books out. One of the most important things we need to do in 2022 is become a self-treater. You must learn to self-treat. My book, I have a book being typed, and I am hoping to call it How to Be Your Own Doctor. I have to see what the legal ramifications are. But I want to be independent of the government, of the doctors. I want to be able to take care of everything. Now, if I fall and break a hip, I won't have that choice. But I'm praying every day that the Lord protects me from that. And the leading cause of death over 65 is falls. So, I would have to have a trauma doctor. I would have to have a trauma doctor for that. And or some other, like say I got a strange bowel obstruction or something. Hopefully I wouldn't. But if I follow my diet and I take my supplements and I exercise and I'm doing quite a bit of different modalities, saunas, etc., then I'm praying that I don't ever have to, I can totally self-treat. And so that's my goal. Your goal should be to learn as much as you can on how to treat yourself, your husband, and your kids. When my brother was sick, this is what we did when he had MS. We put him on total natural food. We completely took away all the bad food, and he just did great. He went into remission. We got a tilt table. We got everything so that he could have 6 or 7 years of a ministry before he went to heaven. We didn't know he was going to die that soon, but he had very, very severe MS. And so there's a lot you can, by the way, you can also, if you are going through menopause and there's things you can take, there's a natural estrogen. The problem is you don't know which one you need and you don't know how much you need. So that's why I recommend. Now, I am able to diagnose. If I can interview you and get the symptoms, then I can probably put you on the right path and we can start. When I came and got a biomeridian scan, my nurse, Evelyn, put me on something I hadn't been on that supports my ovaries. And she's a great believer in giving herbs that will help the glands to create their own hormones. So I went on a product called, and I can sell this to you, Endopara, and it's like an endocrine parasite. Just a bottle like that, $16. And within about 3 weeks, I felt way better. Well, I looked in there, and of course, chaseberry's in there, and chaseberry is a supplement for estrogen, like it promotes those kind estrogenic things. And I asked her, I said, would that hurt someone who's had breast cancer? She said, no. So there are lots of things you can do but I would recommend first praying, second, either get the labs, get the saliva test, or do a biomeridian scan. And of course, I get 3 scans a year. I swear by them now. I do get labs once a year, but I usually don't do my hormones, but I get my labs once a year, get my cholesterol checked and all that. Okay, I have something else I wanted to tell you, and that is, 2 stories. My adopted daughter worked with me for several years, and I was helping her, and she's had health issues, and I knew she had thyroid problems, and so I got her on thyroid, and that really helped her. I got her to Dr. Streeter, and I worked with her probably, let's see, I'm trying to think, he's 11 years old, so I probably worked with her a good 10 years before she got pregnant. Well, the summer she got pregnant, and she hadn't been to a doctor yet. So I don't remember how many weeks it was, but I think it was like 12, 13 weeks. She wakes up in a pool of blood. And I get the call, and she's shaking. Mrs. T, Mama T, she calls me. I'm on my way to the ER. So she gets there, and they come out. They take I don't know what they did, but they took a scan or whatever, and they came in and said 2 separate gestational sacs. And they were just blown out of the water. In other words, she had been pregnant with twins, and they didn't know it. But they said the one child died, and they gave her they gave the other child, which was my Levi, who's 11 years old now, they gave him a 50-50 chance. And by the way, she couldn't have a D&C. because she had 2 sacs, and one, the baby who died, it just had to dry up and it had to come out on its own. That was terrible. I mean, she was passing some big clots there for a while. I immediately upped her progesterone. I mean, zam. I said, go up to 300 milligrams, because it was OTC. It wasn't prescription strength. There's 2 kinds. OTC is not as strong. Prescription strength is more therapeutic level. So then she was able to go to a doctor and get a higher amount. So I said, because I wanted to save Levi. And so he had a 50-50 chance. Well, what happens again? She was estrogen dominant. She had a thyroid problem and bad diet, of course, like most of us. And so she did not have enough progesterone to sustain that one twin. And so many women don't realize that they need progesterone during the pregnancy. And you've got to either find a doctor that's going to help you. That's very important. Second story, sad. Had a little girl that, I don't know if you've seen these shots, but there's an advertisement for a shot. It's a birth control shot, but it says only for women that have already had babies. It's a, like this Deladumone, they got these names of these shots. So this is for women who've had kids. Well, one doctor gave one of my students the shot. And it basically totally shut her whole hormone system down. So she comes to me and she hasn't had a cycle for 3 years. Well, I knew right away. I said, you've got to come to Dr. Streeter. So she came to Dr. Cal. He started balancing out thyroid, progesterone. I don't know what else he gave her. But he started working with her for a year. It took a year to get things. I think it took a year for her cycle to start again. Well, she was able to conceive and have 3 children. But sadly, when they were like very young, like 3, 4, and 5, she got ovarian cancer. Now, I don't have all of her records, and I don't have the pathology report. But I'm just sitting here saying to myself, did that strong shot, did that go to her ovaries and give her cancer? I sure would wonder about that very much. I asked I have a pharmacist that I work with up in Indiana, and he makes what they call bioidentical hormones. They're made out of wild yams. These are all the natural hormones that you can buy. And there are pharmacies called custom dosing pharmacies all across the country. That's also a way you can find some answers. And so I called him and I said, tell me about the smallest, tiniest birth control pill. Because the girls would come to me and they'd want something. And so he said the smallest, tiniest birth control pill still has 11 times more estrogen than a woman needs. Yes. So all these pills, and there are, I don't know how many thousands, but the birth control pill industry is unbelievable. And they give it for everything. They don't check, if you're not having cycles, instead of checking your thyroid, they put you on a pill. Well, then that adds estrogen to a woman's body, so she's out of balance. And now, sometimes a very, very good doctor will look at a woman and he'll look right at her and say she needs this particular pill. But it's just very dangerous. And of course, there are many more drugs out there now than there used to be. So those are my stories about hormones. So there are some things you can do. For example, you could, and by the way, thyroid tests aren't always accurate, but I can give you 2 home tests you can do. I can give you 2. You can test your thyroid. You can test your temperature. There's 2 ways to test if you think you've got thyroid. So solutions: over-the-counter raw thyroid, over-the-counter progesterone, over-the-counter for the adrenals, which is ashwagandha. There are solutions. And by the way, the adrenals, what happens is when we're stressed and we don't have a system or a plan, and our hormones are really working. In fact, all of your energy comes from your hormone system, and your hormones affect your heart. Your hormones affect everything in your body. And so my scanner has a box around all of the hormones on this form, on the sheet, and she calls it the box of life. And it includes all of the glands, the heart, and the immune system. That little box is the box of life, where you get your energy from. And so there are ways to supplement. and I want you to, I can help you with that if you want. I would look up this wellness, let's see, this is a newer, Dr. John Lee. Google Dr. John Lee and his books, and you can get his used books. He will explain the whole hormone system. And he also says what your doctor will not tell you about menopause. And then the Platt Wellness, Platt, wellness.com. And I've already looked it up. There's a bunch of books on Amazon. And so the BioT companies, what they do is they run labs, and labs are okay. Labs are a B. Saliva test is an A. Because here's why. Circulating blood doesn't always have accurate levels of hormones. But it's still a system that some people use, and it's worked for some people. I have pastors' wives that use it. And so BioT is a company that you go and get your labs pretty much for free, but you pay for all the medicine. And so what they do is they take your blood and they put it into a computer, and the computer spits out a long list. And by the way, D3 is a hormone, thyroid, your B vitamins, your estrogen, your thyroid, and it spits out this list of where you're low and what you need. And then the doctor says, would you like to take them? You can take progesterone in pills, you can take it in cream. And you can actually take it in, I think testosterone is the only thing I can think you can take a pellet. And a pellet is where they pick one little tiny cut with one stitch on your hip, and they put that pellet in there. And some people, like I said, swear by it. But the crucial thing is go get tested somewhere. So many people have come down here to Evelyn, and you know, I'm surrounded by 8 states. So like Tennessee is only 5 hours away. Iowa and Nebraska are only 5-6 hours away. But if you can't come here, let me help you see if I can find a scanner in your area, because that's another way to test your hormones. There's also a heart variability test, which my naturopathic doctor performs, which is very helpful. So it's very important that you get to the root solution. Root problem, root solution. And I would never have made it through menopause if I didn't have my doctor with the natural hormones. And it's amazing what that natural hormones do. And the cream, amazing what it does for the libido. And I'm very concerned about our men, because when a woman's libido is bad, that's not good for the marriage. And by the way, men need testosterone. Every man does. Over 50. Maybe not somebody 30, not yet. I don't think so. But I have had, I take it back, I've had somebody here on the ranch that went and got tested, and his testosterone was so low they couldn't believe it, 26 years old. So we do excrete and abuse hormones when we're under stress, or if we have a stressful lifestyle, or if we have our diet isn't clean. Like I said, we're exposed to, I have a friend that was exposed to what they call germ warfare, which is somebody who works on vehicles, where they're inhaling all that exhaust. That will mess up your hormones. So even a man that's over 40 and between 40 and 50 could need hormone supplementation. And because BPH is, almost every man over 50 has BPH. And it's a lot caused by estrogen dominance. What do men eat? Meat with hormones in it. And so they say when a man dies, no matter what he dies of, and they do an autopsy, he's got prostate cancer, because it's every man's getting it. And it's sort of like what's happening with breast cancer. And don't be fooled. You know, when we took all these pills, and by the way, the medical world put me on the pill because they thought it was a problem, and it was really my thyroid. And I only took it 3 months, but as my doctor said, it rearranged your whole hormone system. Well, just think about when we excrete those, we take all these medicines, and then we go to the bathroom, and all that stuff goes back into the ground. So we have, and you know, I'm not one of these, climate people, but the fact is, as our world has become more poisoned and more chemicals and more bad foods, GMOs, more toxins, more fungus, all of that's affecting our bodies. You are what you eat and digest. And so it's very important that you get to the root cause. I do help some people, especially if they really aren't don't have chronic illness, I can help some people initially start on some natural progesterone. And if you want, PM me, private message me, and give me a call, and we'll talk, and I can help you know what to do. I can help you know what to take. There's natural progesterone that you can order. And there's actually raw thyroid you can order, iodine, which is needed for the thyroid. And so those can all be purchased online with, and taken. They're not as high of a dose maybe as you need, but they are available. I'm looking to see, I'm looking at my, I don't see any more questions. Good. I'm looking to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Oh, I wanted to tell you that it looks like the world of medicine, functional medicine, I want you to be aware. In fact, I'm hoping to explain this sometime in the next month. But frequency medicine, okay, there are now machines, like you can actually buy a handheld infrared sauna that will go directly on your cells. And okay, someone's asking, can hormone imbalance cause digestive issues? Thyroid problem can cause terrible digestive issues. And you happen to live in a state that is high risk for thyroid. Yeah. All the Great Lakes states, you've got Great Lakes states are leached of iodine, got major thyroid problems. Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Ohio, all of those states are very high risk. They used to call that the goiter belt, Goiter, not garter belt, goiter belt. And so back to this frequency medicine, there's a lot to do out there with, I went today and I laid on a frequency bed. It was very comfortable. I had infrared electrodes on my back. I had a helmet on. I had my eyes covered. I had ear, what do you call those when you cover your ears? Can't think of what it is. And I had my headset. I had using tuning forks. They make noises and sounds in your ears. And the bed gently vibrates. And the infrared sauna is going into my lower back for pain. It was so relaxing. I paid $50 for 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And it's a specialty bed that my naturopathic doctor has. But I just want to tell you, there are things you can buy now and have in your own home. And they will heal, they will actually heal cells. So frequency medicine is the new, it shouldn't be new, it's been around, but it's, you know, your phone runs on frequencies. Essential oils are frequencies. Your heart is electrical. Your heart has an electrical, it has a node, an SA node that's always firing off, firing off, firing off. And so the frequency, I'm going to put some of this on my website. Please pray that my website, there's been, you know, pauses because one person got sick and this happened. I went out of town, da, da, da. But I want you to go see it. It's tutorwithcarol.com. Just go take a look at it. And any suggestions you have, any ideas on what you want me to teach on, anything I can add, just send them to me. Message me or put them right on this video. And realize that there's a whole world out there of non-drug treatments. There is a whole world out there for cancer that has nothing to do with chemo and radiation. There's a whole world out there that can cure parasites, which can cause tumors. There's just so much out there, and conventional doctors are not allowed to do it. See, when conventional medicine, they have to follow what they were taught in med school. Had a friend, I don't know if I told you this story, but he has a stump, got a sore on the stump. He saw, I think I told this last time, Mrs. Mutchler told him to use colloidal silver, and it healed better than what the doctor even, because the doctor couldn't heal it. He was going to cut it off again. So they've been hacking on this man's leg for a couple of years. So he went back to his doctor and he said, it's healed. And he said, I used colloidal silver. And the doctor said, oh, the silver. He knew about the silver. And so the patient said, why didn't you give me the silver? He goes, I'm not allowed to prescribe something that's not a drug. I mean, they're bound by the insurance company. They're bound by Medicare. They're bound by the Affordable Care Act, which ruined our system. And so when you go to a doctor, and if you have a doctor who really cares, that's unusual. But he still has to go by the rules, and he still has to go by Social Security, Medicare, insurance companies. They're really and drug companies are the only ones running it. And so, but when you go to naturopathic medicine, You're looking at the total body. And by the way, that's one of the problems with this thing about hormones. You are not a separate ovary, and I dislike when people, oh, I'm a diabetic. No, you are a human being, a soul, a living person that has a problem with their pancreas. I mean, it's like we can't separate, I'm a this, I'm a that. No, and that's the way and guess what? When they put you in the system as that never leaves you. It's in it's in this Social Security / conventional medicine that's in the computer. And so that's why they only do certain things. And it always comes up, And so like the fact that I'm a 19-year breast cancer survivor, every time they want me to, I'm not going to do mammograms. I haven't done mammograms. I'm going to do a thermogram because mammograms, they squeeze your chest, they shoot radiation through it. And in the 60s, before we had mammograms, before we had birth control pills, we had very little breast cancer. Now it's like the number one. I think colon cancer is number one in men and women both. But women, the breast cancer is it's worldwide one of the number one cancers. Well, we're shooting everybody with radiation. We're feeding them foods that are full of hormones and estrogen. And so, of course, we're going to have it. So there's a whole world out there. I want you just to wake up and realize and get the kind of mind that's, I'm going to learn this. And you know what? You don't have to. I have learned so much on my own about holistic medicine. I didn't get taught this in nursing school. Now, what I did get taught in nursing school is how to love people, how to care about people, how to do bedside nursing care, and how to, I've always sort of had a gift for looking at people and knowing something was wrong. But there's things I know body mechanics, there's things I was taught, but holistic medicine and the science of understanding the body and all, most of that I've learned on my own. So I want to encourage you to become your own doctor and your own nurse, and it is possible. Send me questions, send me comments, send me things you want me to talk about. And I want to tell you this, if you want an appointment, private message me and give me your phone number. And what I do is I basically, on Mondays, I text back to people and I line my schedule up. I have been, just recently, I had patients here, 12 scans in 6 days. So I was in Springfield getting scans with people. And what I do is when someone comes for a scan, I meet with them after they get their scan. I go over the scan with them. I give them dietary teaching, mostly a lot of dietary teaching, and I help them understand the scan. And so if you want that, I can do that. And the other thing is I want to know, again, what you're wanting to learn. Satan wants you sick. He wants you depressed. And you know what? When you start thinking of things that make you depressed, that's the devil talking to you. If you're a born-again Christian, and he can do it. He knows how to. He is marching around looking who he can devour. And one of the main ways, in fact, I just read this in the Gospels. Do you know the first way Satan tempted Jesus? Turn these stones into bread. Food. Yes, food and then power. And he wanted him to throw himself down. If you throw yourself down, I'll give you power. Well, that was like if he'd thrown himself down, he would have committed suicide. And one of the 12 who was with Jesus, Judas, was with Jesus all the time, and he committed suicide. So we know that Christians can take their lives, and probably 85% of it is out of balance in some way. I'm not going to say it's hormone necessarily, but I will tell you this, all the invaders, which are bacteria, virus, parasites, fungus, mold, and now we got EMFs. All these radiation is all of that's combining with these invaders to mess up our digestion, mess up our bodies, make us feel lousy. It's the combination of all of those, and they can weaken your hormone system for sure. I'm still on a product that my scanner put me on 2.5 years ago. It's called EndoPara. It supports the endocrine system and kills parasites, and it just is amazing what it's done for me. I take a small little amount of progesterone, maybe 3 nights a week. It's a cream, and I rub it on my legs. I also use a magnesium cream for leg cramps on my legs. And I know the stuff to do. I wish I could help some of the girls that want to have children that can't conceive. I wish I could give more help to that. So, in conclusion, take a look at my website. I will. If you've got any more questions, put them down underneath this post, and I will put down 2 or 3 links. And when I finally am up, and here's the other thing that's going to happen. On my website, you're going to be able to, I can refer you to all the good products. And, you know, I've been referring people, and a lot of people made money off me, and it's okay. A year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, Dave Baker called me. He's a pastor in Tennessee, and he said, Carol, you're giving away all kinds of information you could make a living on. He says, I guarantee you could. Well, you know, I'm not really a good salesperson. I can teach. I love people. I'm a nurse. I don't like to sell. But I'm a promoter, because I mean, and about 300 people have come down here for scans. I did not tell them to. They just said, I'm coming. And so, you know, I'm hoping that I can get my favorite products on my website. You can go there and you can order them, and I will get a percentage. I'm already signed up as an Amazon associate. I've been referring Amazon products for 3 years. Now I finally get, even if it's 25 cents, I get a small associate's percent from what I recommend. And so that's exciting. The Lord's doing it, because I didn't start this. I'm so busy now, and I was hoping that I was going to stay retired. So, okay, I want to, and that, I know I didn't dive deep enough for some of you, but let me know if you want more. I'll do more. God wants you healthy, and Satan wants you sick. Clean up your diet, and it'll change your life. Bye-bye. See you next Thursday.